Hi, it's Anne again. I just want to finish up from the last video that I did. I got cut off. I wasn't paying any attention, and I went over the allotted time that YouTube gives you to record these things. So I'm really sorry about that. But I decided to post it anyway because there was a whole heap of information on there, and I just didn't really want to lose what I'd said about the studies. Anyway, following on from that, what I was basically saying was that the last paper that I looked at, I actually couldn't lay my hands on a paper to do with the buffalo study in New York, and I think that is an extremely significant paper in this whole CCSVI thing. It is really, really important that you have a look at the paper if you can lay your hands on it. I'm sure you probably will find it. I just couldn't while I was doing all the research and everything. But I read an article written by an Ashton Embry, who writes for the Direct MS website. So if you go to www.direct-ms.org, there's a fantastic paper there called CCSVI and Multiple Sclerosis, Integrating New Data to Help Guide Actions. It's a very, very interesting read. I recommend you read it as part and parcel of your research. And again, I'm going to stress to you that I haven't fallen on that side of the fence that is negative about the studies. As much as I want to apply the brakes, I feel that the nature of MS is that we relapse reasonably frequently. I mean, even with the disease-modifying drugs, a lot of people relapse reasonably regularly. I know I do, enough to kind of be noticeable to myself. And I know that clinical trials are designed to basically test theories for all sorts of different things that are medically related. They also test for efficacy, they test for safety, they test for a number of things. There's many things. I understand it, and I know that there are many things that clinical trials test for. What I want to say is that I don't have the 5 or 10 years that it will most likely take to go through numerous trials, consider all the efficacy of this, the clinical safety, and I think this is safe, okay guys, I really do, but I don't have the 5 or 10 years that it's going to take for you to drive the car to test to see if those wheels are going to fall off. I simply don't have that time, and every single person with MS will be sitting there again nodding their head going, yes, that's true, we do not have the time, we don't have the time. So whatever you decide to do, you need to take that into consideration. It's a huge thing. Okay, going back to the University of Buffalo study, this was done by Dr. I'm having trouble with my speech. Drs. Zvedanov and Dr. Weinstock-Gutman. Very, very interesting read. I'm just going to read you what the outcome of this study was, based on what is in this article. I'm sorry, I cannot give you the ins and outs of the amount of people that were tested, that were involved in the trial, the controls, the amount of remitting, relapsing versus secondary progressives versus primary progressives. But what I can do is give you the outcomes of that test, of that trial. It basically says that 55% of persons with multiple sclerosis in the study had CCSVI, and I can only imagine that means overall, that's everyone. 22% of healthy controls had CCSVI. 10% of the subjects tested showed that they had kind of one neurological event prior to the test. Hang on, I've got that around the wrong way. That was 38% of those with a clinically isolated syndrome, so that had one neurological event, probably the start of something like multiple sclerosis, had CCSVI. And I say probably because it is established that multiple sclerosis is the biggest disease that causes demyelination. So I say probably, who knows? The jury's out, and we won't know. No one will know. 10% of the subjects tested, so that 50 of them, were classified as borderline. They were included in the non-CCSVI category when these individuals were excluded from the statistical analysis. It was shown that in actual fact 62% of persons with MS had CCSVI and 26% of the healthy controls had CCSVI, so it bumped both cases up, both percentages up. And the thing that I find probably the most, I'm going to stick the glasses on again. The thing that I find probably the most significant in this was that 80% of those with the more advanced MSs showed that they had CCSVI. Sorry, that's my phone to remind me to take my medication, which I've already taken. So 80% of those are the more advanced types of MS showed that they had CCSVI. That's whopping. What we can see here, if you look at the studies, this is probably true for a fair number of them anyway, it seems to be that overall the cases, maybe 50% or more for the more positive type studies, the more the type of studies that lend themselves towards thinking CCSVI might be a considered a thing. But what you seem to see is that as it goes along, the progressive types, CCSVI starts to get more prominent, more prevalent. That actually poses questions. That poses questions for me. That makes me think if CCSVI is something that is actually real and tangible, the further along you progress with your MS, does a CCSVI do the narrowings, do the stenosis, the stenosed veins? Does that become worse? Questions that need answering can only be answered with clinical trials. So to me, this is really exciting. I think we need to think very long and hard about MS. We need to think very long and hard about what MS means. I'm going to close the curtain because I'm looking very white. We're having some interesting weather here in Auckland. That's better. So the other thing that I also wanted to say is that there have been some other experts from different fields, not neurology, that are stepping into the ring that is CCSVI now. They're stepping into the ring. And I saw two exceedingly interesting, I'm just going to get my book that I wrote my notes in. I saw two extremely interesting talks, and I'm going to post at the very bottom here in the comments section. I'm going to post the links because both of these guys are on YouTube. To the details and everything, so that you can watch the videos too, because I believe that this should be something that should be considered. You need to take this into consideration. If indeed it is shown that CCSVI is not actually a neurological in its basis, but it might actually be vascular with neurological implications, then I think that other experts have to have a say. They have to have a say. They are the experts in their field, and that needs to become part and parcel of your overall research. Perhaps you need to have a think about that. So what I did was I had a look at a guy at a talk called a talk from a Dr. Andrews. He is a vascular and interventional radiologist in Seattle, and it was really interesting because he outlines a number of things that are really interesting. He talks about how the vasogenic theory, what I'm talking about there is all the plaques and demyelination patches are seen around veins. He talks about how that is supported. He actually gives evidence that this was first talked about in 1868. He also talks about a paper written by a man called Dr. Talbot. I think it's a Dr. Talbot. Yes, it is. I'm pretty sure it is. He wrote this paper which very well may link venous disease with autoimmunity. Again, you need to take this into consideration maybe when making your overall decision. So, and we know that MS, we know that the considered experts of MS out there have said MS is an autoimmune disease. So yeah, he links it, so that should be investigated. He also talks about a Professor Dake, and this is the other man. I found his talk. I actually found the talk because I thought it was something I needed to look into. He talks about a Professor Dake at this, who is giving a presentation at the Society of Interventional Radiology. Sorry. Professor Dake talks about the rationale that could support a link between MS and venous obstruction, and he actually shows some images of venous malformations and obstructions that he has seen, and he shows them in his talk. He also talks about how when certain venous obstructions are resolved, he talks about stenting. Okay, he doesn't talk about balloon angioplasty. He talks about stenting, and stenting begins to bump your risk up. You need to know about the risks that begins to bump your risk up, but he does talk about stenting of these veins and keeping them open. So it's something that you would probably need to talk, if you were going to go for this procedure, you would need to talk to the radiologist that's going to perform the procedure for you. They are the best experts. They are the experts in that field to know the most. But he talks about stenting. What he does, what's exciting, is he talks about, as these veins are opened up again, certain symptoms like bladder control, huge thing with MS, bladder control, a number of different things, how these symptoms begin to resolve, and how these veins, when they are stenosed, cause these symptoms. I think you need to watch these guys and take them into your make it part of your considered opinion, informed choice. Right, I'm going to post the on the comment section of that. I'm going to actually post some bits and pieces. I might have to do it in two or three comments, because YouTube does only allow you a certain amount of characters. So yeah, just have a look on the end of this video and have a look and see if you can see the postings. If they're not there, just let me know, and I'll make them available to you. Anyway, keep the comments coming. Have a really good day, and we'll chat again soon. I'm going to post another video up very shortly. See ya.